So thank you very much, everybody. I think we'd like to move to questions if anybody has them. But before we do that, I just want us to give a big round of applause to all the panelists, because I know everyone's anxious to leave. So if you have, I think they shared a lot of exciting stigma reduction approaches that we can all hopefully take home to our home countries. So if we could, the first lady at the mic in the purple.
Yeah. This is my student that I dragged over here. But she's going to ask some questions. And this is like one of the greatest orators of the future, Rico Hill, but he's shy. So we'll give him a break. He will not get a reduced grade by Monday on his final. Yes. So I want to say namaste to my friend from India. I've been to India all the way through from Mumbai, Chennai, all the way to Kanyakumari, Agra, Jaipur. Buenas tardes to my friend from Peru. I was at a conference in Peru, in Cusco, where I gave a paper in March. And Jambo to my friend from Kenya. Mimi ninapenda wewe, all of you. I love all of you. But I have not been to Kenya quite yet. Okay, my question to my friend from India is, you know, like in Kerala, Cochin, down the side here, coming down from Mumbai, they have a lot of Ayurvedic medicine and acupressure, acupuncture, all of that. Deepak Chopra, you remind me of Deepak. Tell me how you, because you know, nowadays they're trying to say you can meditate everything away. I meditate, but I'm not quite sure if you can because you hear I'm hoarse. So obviously it doesn't work for everything just like that. But how does Ayurveda and holistic medicine and all of that fit into the paradigm of treating AIDS? To my friend from the Kiswahili country, yes, again, I welcome all, I just love the world, but I wanted to know, you spoke about something to do with, like, AIDS might be like divine intervention. I'm not sure if it's your philosophy or not, but I know somebody lost part of the election the other day because of saying some things like that. And so we have to be careful that we think that God, you know, like it was God's will that the person has AIDS. And then from my friend from Peru, how do you treat how do AIDS patients in Cusco get oxygen? Because when I was in Cusco, trust me, the coca leaves did not help. I almost fainted a few times, although I love Cusco. Machu Picchu is just like that.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, there were 3 questions in there. So would you like to go first, Dr. Sansing?
Okay, let me take the question. In the early days of HIV in India, the Ayurveda, there are a lot of Ayurvedic medicines that promote a cure. And then somebody made millions already until a group of activists, we stopped that person or that 2-3 persons from stopping the Ayurveda and promoting AIDS cure. That's the problem with Ayurveda. But however, later on with the research in Chennai, the Ayurvedic medicines are found to be very useful in sort of boosting immune system, not with HIV, boosting immune system. So like there are some immune SR, a lot of medicines start coming up in terms of Ayurvedic medicines.
Okay, Pauline?
Actually, nakupenda pia. But I don't think the question was mine. I think it was Wada's because she's the one who talked about telling her mother about her brother and God. And so maybe she will answer you, but my strong belief as a theologian, I have a background in theology, is that God does not will anything wrong for anybody. And discrimination based on religion or scripture is unacceptable. You know, I am a Christian and I believe that Jesus taught us to love everybody, no matter what they are or what they've done, and that's the basis. As far as, you know, God's will for us to die, I think for me, it's not God's will for us to die, but to do everything possible to keep them alive. you know. And if we do that, you know, we've already saved 600,000 people just in the last year by giving them medication to stay alive. So God gives us knowledge to keep people alive. Thank you.
Regarding that statement, you see, Muslims believe in predestination. And we believe that something good or bad happens only by the will of God. And by my mother being a very strong Muslim, she can only understand that language, that my brother's death will only be predestination. And that is stronger to her, I thought, than saying that he is going to die in vain without anything happening to her, especially what was happening in Uganda. That is the way you uplift the spirit of an old person, I believe. Okay, nashukuru pia.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much. Let's have the next person, and if you could please keep to one question per person. We only have about 10 minutes for questions because it's getting rather late and we're way over time. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Angela Hatcher. I'm a senior sociology major here at Howard. My question is in regards to cultural competency. So what differences have you noticed in the treatment methods offered to HIV/AIDS patients based on their sex, age, and religion, etc.? Thank you. It's for anybody.
Did you hear the question? We had trouble hearing you actually because the mic wasn't on.
I'm sorry. What differences have you noticed in the treatment methods offered to HIV patients and AIDS patients based on their sex, age, and religion?
So that is the doctor.
Does anyone want to
I
take
think people are having a hard time to understand what you're saying.
You're talking about AIDS treatment and religion?
Are there differences in the way you might treat a person who is Muslim or Christian or a woman or a man or older, younger? Sorry.
Do you mean treat them medically with ART?
Medically. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
No,
so would there be any medical differences in?
Yeah. I'll take a portion of that. You know, when I started working, I wear many hats. I work for at least 4 or 5 hospitals. I mean, in NGOs, like when I began my work with AIDS in India. And one of them was the gay and lesbian group. I find it very difficult to begin with in the first 2 days of treating homosexual or gay people. And then I decided, oh my God, what am I thinking? These people are human beings. And I really felt guilty that I even thought of that, okay? So then the next day, I see them as human beings, not as gay. Similarly, there are people from the Muslim community, there are people from different communities. When I see them as human beings, there was no problem at all, and I never had any problem. And in fact, there was a Muslim lady whose husband has died of AIDS, and then the family has kept her aloof in the house, all alone, and she just gave a birth to a little girl. And then there was no medical care, there was no doctors going there. So we learned about that from the neighbors. So we drove about 3 hours in the village, and we talked to the elders, and then they allow us to take home, because according to some religious thing, they are not allowed to get out before 40 days or something like that. But the people were very understanding. So therefore, there was no bar to treatment to any religion or any group or any different sexual orientation or whether that.
Okay, next question.
Peace and greetings to you all. Assalamu alaikum. This question is for Dr. Warda. Dr. Warda. My name is Omar Abdul Malik. I'm a physician assistant. I've been practicing HIV medicine for a little more than 10 years. I see a very strange paradigm in which my Muslim patients who have HIV or AIDS often will listen to imams more so than me, the clinician. Everything from stop taking their antiretrovirals because Allah will give them a cure, or being crushed spiritually by the person condemning them. This is what you get for your dirty practices, for going against Allah. What advice would you give Muslim clinicians to help us either override or meet the challenges of I guess, religious leaders overriding the advice that they give to Muslim patients who have HIV and AIDS?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Umar. If you can say so. My issue is I'm really not a theologian. However, there's certain things I know about Islam. Islam is very clear about what is an individual's right, what a woman's right is, and what a patient's right is. It's very clear about what is right and what is wrong. However, though, sometimes I attribute information that moves from religious leaders to clients. I'm calling them clients because it's a diversity here, as limited based on their knowledge. If a Muslim leader does not have full command of information that is stipulated in Quran and Hadith, he is not going to be capable of trickling down that information to the client. And because of that, I'm with you, by the way. There's a lot of confusion regarding what is supposed to be done by an HIV client in this case. So a mu'min, a believer in the masjid, tends to walk away with information of the leader or the imam from the pulpit, depending on the knowledge of that imam. In general, Islam allows us to seek for treatment as much as it allows us to pray for divine intervention. Every Muslim is supposed to believe in divine intervention, and every Muslim is supposed to seek for treatment. And every Muslim can be treated by a Muslim male or a Muslim female. And by the way, choices are very important in Islam. So the client has also to know their right as far as their choices are concerned. Like I said earlier, we have a lot of work to do in the church. We have a lot of work to do in the masjid regarding what kind of leaders are we producing. So it's very important to every HIV/AIDS advocate to know how to deal. We should start training, because I think it has started, but it hasn't gone to that extent. We should start training leaders in the church and leaders in the masjid to know how to talk to clients of the faith. Yeah. That will be my response to you, brother.
I hope they'll be receptive to it. Thank you.
We can't hear you, doctor.
Come to the mic, Dr. Ram.
I have clients from all backgrounds, mostly Christian, but many Muslims too. And when a client comes and tells me I've had patient refuse, and you would hear things like, "Oh, I talked to God last night, and He says that you're going to be okay." I said, "Okay, meaning what?" "Oh, He said, "Okay, without medication." I said, "Did you really hear?" He said, "My mind was made up, and God said you're okay."
Yeah.
So you see, what they are running by their priest or imam has a lot to do with the answer they get.
Yes.
So many a time what they're telling you is only half truth. I mean, that's the whole truth for them, because they have decided, and I can go get an imam to put a stamp of approval, what I'm going to do. It's just like, we have this dua, supplication of istighfar. Yes. You bow down, you like a girl, or it's okay to even cheat on you. God forbid. My wife is here. But it's what you ask, and God doesn't speak to you. God lets you make your decision, because
absolutely
He's going to hold you accountable, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Just one thing to add on that point is just that there are existing tools that can be used and that have been adapted with religious leaders. For example, there's a stigma reduction toolkit that was developed by ICRW and partners a number of years ago, and it was recently adapted by a group in Afghanistan for use with imams throughout. Well, it was in one area of the country, but it was actually approved by the Ministry of the Hajj and Islamic Affairs. So there are tools out there. You can find them on the Stigma Action Network website. So I encourage you to go there.
Yeah, and just to say, there's also in East and Southern Africa, there's a lot of work that's being done with religious leaders that might be helpful for those who want to start working with religious leaders.
Say again?
I'd like to bring it here to D.C. because, wallahi, I've had patients, I guess, born-again Christians whose pastors told them that you don't need the HIV medication because God will cure you. Yeah. And the same thing, imams in the khutbah. You know, doctors, I want you to stop writing prescriptions for your patients. You know, so
well, I think we should find a way to do that because I think that's true. This comes up a lot over and over again. So we should see those tools here. Yeah, next question.
Hi, my question is from a doctor from Uganda. Oh, my name is Ron Simmons. I'm the president and CEO of an AIDS organization here in D.C. called Us Helping Us People into Living. Okay. My question was, I was impressed with your presentation about, it gave me hope for the young people. So I guess my question is, could you talk a little bit about the stigma against men having sex with men, particularly given this, the governmental move to outlaw being gay, how that will affect HIV, and also, do you think the young people will have a different attitude toward it because they seem to be more enlightened than the older ones from what you said? But I'm just curious, do you think it will even go to them being more sensitive about homophobia and the anti-gay law?
Yeah, you're taking me the political route now. I know you're asking that question because of what has been happening a lot in the news. Yes, unfortunately it is so, as far as government policy is concerned. But the slide that I showed you earlier, that I kind of moved forward a little bit faster, where they're saying that in Islam, Muslims have been taught to visit the sick. A Muslim has a right over another Muslim when they're sick, irrespective of their disease. And what these children actually were arguing, and that's one powerful line that I thought was very profound, and that can, you know, act as a good divide between the homophobic issue, is focus on the patient. Focus on the person who is sick. The disease that we are talking about here, the disease that we are stigmatizing here, the person that we are stigmatizing is, the disease is HIV and AIDS, and the person is a person living with HIV and AIDS. So we are discussing HIV and AIDS. How they got it, where they got it is none of our business. It's none of the business of what is going on in the masjid. It's none of the business of going. If an MSM person came to you and decided to have a relationship with you, that's a different story. Then you can bring all your individual convictions to say, I like a woman or I like a man. But we are talking about disease here. We are talking about access to care. We are talking about taking care of a soul, a human being that was created by Allah, by God, by however you're calling it. It is none of your business to be judgmental of his disease. It's your duty as a Muslim brother, as an imam, as a preacher, to take care of that person. That is the line that I go with, sir.
And our final question.
Oh, no. Good evening. The name is Jillian. I wanted to ask is it Dr. T. Singh? You have Hope For with football, Hope For. Have you thought of doing Hope For from the rich to the poor to help bind the barrier? That's one. And two, I was thinking about cultural competency. I think most physicians should do that course, and it would help in when you're treating your patients, you would be competent enough to know the culture of that person and know exactly how to, and help you to eliminate the stigma. So you wouldn't have to go through that thought of, oh my God, this person is. Cultural competency, I think there is a book written on it from National Minority AIDS Education and Training Center. They did do a book on that. So if you can put your hand on it and maybe share it with your counterparts. Thanks.
Okay, well, I think he's going to answer quickly, and then we'll give you the final word. Oh, okay. So you can have...
Well, thank you very much. The first one, I couldn't really get it. But in terms of, I think, sensitizing the doctors, with, or maybe, I don't know, we don't have a course on how, on different culture and practices in India. However, our efforts in terms of the organization I work with or with the Touch of Hope, one thing we do is go to the doctors. With the support from the pharma companies, we arrange a lot of these sensitization programs with the doctors. And it's amazing that highly accomplished doctors and surgeons and neurosurgeons and a lot of such people, or OBGYN people, they actually want to see a live AIDS, a live practicing doctor who treat AIDS. And when they see, hey, I've been treating AIDS for the last 15 years, and hi, I'm still okay. So they want to be, they want to be reassured. And then not only that, when we talk to them, they ask such interesting questions like, how do you greet an HIV patient? What do we do in HIV patients? So all across cultural and language barriers or borders, it ended up how, like taking the first year class in the first year clinical session of medical students. Okay, you welcome the person, you ask him to sit down, you give him a smile, don't be judgmental, and then you ask him what is the history of the diseases, the past history. They know all that. They've been doing every single day, but they want to hear from me, and they feel assured. So definitely, I think it's really important doing that to doctors, because after that, definitely a lot of people who really begin treating AIDS patients in their offices.
Okay, thanks. But what I was asking for the hope, you say you have a lot of rich clients,
yes, yes,
and you have some that are poor,
yes,
unable to have funds to get their medication. I was saying, hope for from the rich. You can get them to assist in hoping for the poor, yes, and assisting them. So maybe you can do hope, sure, for from the rich to the poor.
Yeah. But interestingly, except for my rich patients, the rich patients come and say, because I run all my clinics are free. So I see a rich patient, they come to me because they know I have the experience working so many years, and then I have experience from all around the world. They come to my clinic, and then they said, how much do you charge? And in some of the bigger hospitals, they charge $5,000, that's about $100. And then I said, I don't charge. They happily go back home. And then I said, we have a foundation that cares for the poor, the AIDS, the children with AIDS. We send them to school. We support the AIDS widows. And you can feel free to drop a check. You don't hear from them again. No. But interestingly, it's the poor who give. But yeah, I think we have to do that in a war footing of trying to get the money from the rich. It's not so much like the United States. India, I think it's slightly different, raising money. And I see the poor are more generous than the rich.
Thank you. Okay, the last word comes from, I believe, a gentleman from Uganda.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Thanks so much for the panelists. Mine is a comment. In my language, Luganda, there is a concept that okumanya sikutegeera. Basically, there is a difference between knowing and wisdom. And I think if we look at many of the problems that are connected with stigma on HIV, especially with the issues of our respected leaders, either in the faith or even political leaders, or even among health providers, knowledge is not, there is no wisdom. There is a lot of knowledge, but there's no wisdom. And therefore, we need to really understand the context of societies, what is going on in each society, totally understand the social, cultural norms of a society, and then design an approach that is targeting that community. One of my gentlemen has been talking about anti-HIV criminal bills that are in Uganda. That has been a hot, topic. but we need really to understand that it's going to take time. If in the US you still have homophobia, I bet you we are going to have homophobia for quite a long time in Africa, but we need to focus. What is really the issue, especially as far as HIV is concerned? I think I totally agree with my wife that, I'm biased in that sense, of course, but let's focus on the nature of the disease, that we are dealing with patients. Let's forget about stigmatizing the disease. Let's say this is a patient who needs help, and if we do that, then we'll find a lot of religious scriptures that are very positive on how to deal with sick people. And once we do that, I think we shall have more imams and priests who are willing to come on our board. But if we try to push, if it is seen that it is the West that is trying to teach Africa, then we are going to have a problem. And those are some of the pushback that is coming on these issues of HIV, homophobia in Africa. They feel like you want to tell us how to live, you want to change our culture, but if we go with wisdom, I think we'll find a lot of partners who are willing to work with us.
And
Thank you.
A quick comment about that.
Yeah.
While I agree that we have to go slow, we have to admit that it's a violation of human rights. And if it's a violation of human rights, then we have to do everything possible to address it. Education, we definitely have to educate them, because if we only look at the disease and not the rights aspect of it, then those who are not already infected will continue to be down low because they're so afraid of coming out, and that makes them more vulnerable to HIV infection. It's not just men who have sex with men, it's also sex workers. It's also women, violence against women and discrimination against women. And so if we don't identify it as a violation of human rights, then we are, in my opinion, we are complacent with discrimination and stigmatization. But I also agree that it has to come from within, that we, as a Kenyan, have to be willing to stand up and be counted as one who is saying that this is a violation of human rights. Just as I advocate for the human rights of women publicly, I should be able to advocate for the rights of sex workers publicly, because we need to have them be protected. We need to give them the resources they need to stay safe. That's the way I look at it. And when you come at it from that perspective, obviously you will face a lot of challenges. Most religious leaders do not want to listen to that. And when I talk to religious leaders, I say, I'm not saying that you compromise your own teachings because your teaching tells you one thing, but I want you to go back to the root of your religion, to the root of your faith, and remember who created this person with those instincts, who created this person the way they are, and in whose image is this woman or is this man created in. Thank you.
Dr. Rana, I think we have someone who would like to say something.
Okay, can I just add?
Yes, please.
To what said is, I think the main issue around stigma and discrimination ultimately is fear. Fear, as we all know, everybody fear. The patient fear, the family fear, and the providers also fear. The only thing is to overcome fear. Like in my clinics, you have transgenders, all dressed a bit different. They're there, and I have people who are not transgender or people who are just coming, they look at them, and when I lose the fear of what other people will think as a doctor, the other people begin to accept these people. They started good conversation, and one side I have IDUs with all their, with all their tattoos and with their bandanas and, with their leather jackets and things like that. They're there. And then they're the one who spoke so softly to the other people. So it's fear. The doctors should lose fear. The nurses should lose fear. The people up here should lose fear. I think then this is not anything to, of course, religion is important, but main thing is to lose fear yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Anamu Matambanadzo. I am a founder and a CEO of Advanced African Development Foundation Incorporated. I'm also a faculty at the University of Pittsburgh. I didn't want to respond, but based on what has just been said and reflecting on the partnership I have with people in Africa, true, there is need for interventions or whatever we do, initiatives grounded within the culture in Africa. There's great work that is being done in Africa on issues of HIV and AIDS. The only challenge is those things, people don't know about them because there is very little publication because people don't have funding. And I'm excited that you are now responsible for research and funding. If we can have all those initiatives out, and those have been very successful based on the conferences that I've been attending in Africa. And there is a huge movement where people are like, in Africa we also have expertise, and as a result, we also have initiatives that have worked, but unfortunately, those initiatives are not widely disseminated because of the shortage of funding. If at all, as we move forward with Stigma, and we look at best practices that are grounded in what people are already doing without reinventing, and then probably merge with what is happening in industrialized countries, then I think we'll go a long way. What has not been working as well as it should be is coming up with a model that has been successful in the US and then trying, or Europe or wherever, and trying to replicate it in Africa without taking into consideration the nuances of culture. So things are happening in Africa. We have brilliant people, brilliant researchers who are doing amazing work. And then unfortunately, we might not know of those things unless you attend conferences like these ones where they showcase what they are doing. And we need to document and begin to publish. So I'm excited about it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just have one more announcement before we close. UNAIDS just came out. They just released a report called Results for World AIDS Day. And Pauline has a few copies, and if the materials may still also be out in the back. So please feel free to pick up a copy. Let's once again thank all of our speakers for an excellent panel. And perhaps we'll let them stand up and walk from the podium because they've been sitting here a long time. And thank you for your endurance. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Rana.
Yeah. Hi. You guys are all awake, I see. It's my duty to close, and I honestly was sitting there totally in awe, so indebted to all of you who were here, but also to the speakers. And I saw my close colleagues working over the past 4 months to make this conference possible. And this is in no particular order, but Caroline, could you stand up? Dr. Khan, please stand up. Musarrat, Chandni, where are you? Chandni and Musarrat will be. And Patty, who couldn't be here, she's one of the top leaders. She became sick last night, so I hope Patty is watching on webcast. Awesome. Lisa is here. Thank you, Lisa. But Ron, there's Chandni. All the CMEs, much of the program, putting the book together, and writing grants almost in every way possible. Chandni is always there with a smile, totally awesome. One of my biggest assets. we couldn't do. Ron is not here. He was. Musarrat, could you wave to everybody? The scientific posters, if you haven't seen the scientific posters and the Children's Art Project. We didn't have a presentation here on the podium on Children's Art Project, but some of that work is so awesome. What Masarrat does is gives children in school a curriculum about stigma, and then they come up with these posters or poems or essays, and they submit it, and we give first, second, and third award. And some of the work is totally awesome. But in that process, children get educated, and they take it home and hopefully educate their parents too. I think from the day we started, we have come a long way. The number of people who are there, the diversity of people, the quality of speakers, I think we have raised the level of awareness about stigma as a major factor in prevention efforts for HIV, but I think this work must continue. I think we need centers all around the world which would constantly, I used a bad term, it doesn't sound good, but we need to be milking that cow constantly, because as human beings we go to our default drive of hating. And I think more importantly, within the medical schools, within high schools, we just need better role models. I don't think most medical schools, most hospitals don't have enough good role models. Many of us old professors maybe not be as good, and it is very hard to be a lifter. You know, they say you can subtract or you can add to people. You can lift or you can downgrade them. And every minute of the way we have a choice to lift people up. So you guys have all been an adder to my life. So I thank you very much. And I thank God. Dr. Khan, did I thank you? Now, this thing would be totally not possible without Dr. Khan. So, you know, I started out saying his name, and thank you. So, Dr. Khan, thank you very much. Could you give him a hand again? Because all the logistics, all the webcasting, Luigi, I think, left. This is the third of, actually, he webcast some of our other conferences. If you get to see the video archive, the quality of transmission is as good as your high-density TV. It's awesome. So you can see somebody sitting 12,000 miles away can watch you sometime even better than you can see here, because if your slides are good. So it's awesome. So thank you so much, Luigi, and all those who helped. So, you know, I want us to leave this idea of empathy, fighting stigma, adding to people who are downtrodden, lifting them up. You know, it is, we can make that decision every minute of the way, and all of us can fail to lift other person up. So we need to be watching ourselves, because other people are watching us, and using us as role models. And we need to be helping teach people how to lift others without downgrading those people who are doing it unintentionally. And that is one thing which is very, very hard for me when I see my colleagues. So we need to find better ways to teach ourselves how to teach stigma prevention, because we can't just reject these people, because most of them are doing it unknowingly. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I thank my Allah, Lord, God Almighty, and thank you all, and God bless you, and see you next year.